Well, good afternoon, guys. On this lovely April 16th, I apologize for my voice. I am recovering from laryngitis, but it was just too nice of a day not to make a video. But anyways, I am in Parley's Historic Nature Park, or Tanner Dog Park. They're kind of the same thing. I just call it Parley's Nature Park, because that's what interests me most about this place. And as you can see, we're well in the middle of spring, and a lot of the trees don't have their leaves yet. Many of them do, such as the Prunus virginiana, we can see right here, coming as a chokecherry. It's one of the first trees to leaf out, so having been leafed out for about a month, it's now completely, fully in leaf right now, which looks quite lovely, and soon it will be in bloom. Very cool plant that I love. Provides food for birds. Anyways, as you can see, most of the other plants here, as I said, don't have their leaves yet. And we don't have quite a lot of wildflowers here, but we have a couple that I can show you. So anyways, just sit back and enjoy the video, I guess. I do apologize for my voice because it is quite rough. Although to be fair, it was even worse a few days ago. Right there, all those trees are just starting to leaf out and bloom are Acer negundo, commonly known as a box elder. It's a funny common name because it's neither a box nor an elder. It was just named after, or named box elder because it looked kind of like those two plants, having white pale wood like a box tree, which is a genus of trees not native to North America, so I don't know much about it, and like an elder or sambucus because it has, I don't know, just compound leaves that are opposite. But of course, that's not all you need to know to relate plants to each other, so it is not really closely related to either of them. It is commonly a riparian species, although this area isn't super wet, where we see these trees growing right now, but there is a river nearby. Parley's Creek, of course. It rained yesterday, so the trail is a little bit wet, but not too bad, fortunately. It's already starting to dry out. Here's a better view of some of those box elder blooms. Not the most aesthetic looking flower, but it's kind of cool to see. Certainly, relative to other maples, I think it's quite neat looking. So long trailing anthers. I think the flowers might be monoecious. I mean, maybe the trees might even be fully dioecious, but I'm not sure. I have to look that up. I'm pretty sure they're monoecious. Get a close-up of the compound leaves, like trifoliate leaves. So this tree actually looks quite a lot like poison ivy to some people. I mean, I certainly can see the comparison, though the leaves being opposite, as all maples are, at least all maples that I know of. That is a good way to tell them apart from each other, the young box elder shoots from that of poison ivy, which can also be found here, and we might run into some as I continue walking along. But there's a lot of nice native species here. There are quite a few invasive species, unfortunately, especially the what's it called? Siberian Elm, Ulmus pumila, which I really dislike. It's a pretty terrible tree in these parts. I'm sure we'll see some. I mean, I think I passed them already, but declined to talk about them. Making sure we're all zoomed in properly. All right. And now we're getting to something I actually worked on. This fence right here. I forgot to mention, I actually, when I worked for Salt Lake City's Parks Department, I worked in this park quite frequently. And one of the things I helped build was this big fence to separate this trail from the dirt biking section of the park right there. You'll get a better view in just a second. Oh, there's a squirrel in there. Anyways, that's what the park sort of looks like. Almost there. There we go. See all the dirt hills they got rammed together. Seems like it's always being worked on. But maybe I'm just readjusting it every summer. I don't know. Of course, we also have connection with the Great Basin flora, Artemisia tridentata, and Ericameria nauseosa, commonly known as rubber rabbitbrush. Actually, I'm not sure that one is rubber rabbitbrush because there's Ericameria nauseosa and Chrysophamus viscidiflorus, which are the two most common species of rabbitbrush you'll ever see. I'm not sure which one's the rubber one, but regardless, we can find both of them here. Oxalar maple sign. This might be my longest continuous clip, so I hope it's not too boring or shaky and unusable. Yeah, this whole fence I worked on while building the fence. No, disregard that. It's made from lodgepole pine trees, which grow quite tall and straight, hence the name lodgepole, because they're good for building like log cabins or other varieties of lodges. Now, here's one of those Siberian elms, also known as Ulmus pumila, I was talking about. So it isn't too large yet, but they can grow quite tall. And we're just generally a really annoying invasive tree. There's a ton of gross seeds, or I guess technically fruit, but who cares, every year. And they grow everywhere. They're really hard to eradicate. And they suck up a ton of water and just kind of destroy riparian areas. But less trashy is this plant right here. This is Ribes aureum, also known as the golden currant, which is a lovely plant in the family Grossulariaceae that produces delicious fruit after finished blooming. See, it's lovely yellow flowers right there, which I believe have typically 5 petals. I don't know. I don't know much about a family Grossulariaceae or Ribes. I just know what their leaves look like and that they're very delicious. So yeah, moving on from there, see what else we can find. I'm trying to hold the camera more steady because I know I'm typically pretty bad at that, but you know, it's not easy walking on trails and holding your camera steady, especially a big one like this. Here's a nice Nikon D750. Okay, right around here is another cool spot where I did some restoration work, and I'm happy to say it looks like it's in a better state than when I was last working here. It still's got a lot of invasive species like these guys, a plant that is everywhere in Utah, especially near urban areas, Lepidium draba. You can see just getting ready to bloom. It's also known as Whitetop commonly. It's an invasive member of Brassicaceae from just general Eurasia. I don't really know or care specifically where it comes from because it's so terrible. I might be able to appreciate it in its natural habitat, but here it's really obnoxious. But this place used to be in a worse state, as I said, and it was absolutely infested with these tall Lactica cereola, also known as prickly lettuce. Like, you would not believe how tall some of these were, like over 10 feet, some of them, I swear, were. I guess they really just like the high water content that we can see here. And speaking of invasives, we have I think it's Nasturtium officinale, which is not to be confused with the commonly planted species known as Nasturtium, which is actually in the genus Tropiolum. This is another member of Brassicaceae, which is edible. I think it's called Watercress commonly. And what I tell is when you, or tell what it is when you pull out the ground like this. Smell it. It smells very mustardy, like many members of the family Brassicaceae. In fact, I mean, I think even cabbage can taste mustardy at times. But maybe that's just me. Of course, it's also got Phragmites, which I think it's kind of contentious if they're native or not, or wherever native to. Another lover of wetlands. But also Salix, most likely, I think Salix exigua, or the Sandbar Willow. Lovely native plant for most of North America. All right, continuing on. There really is quite a lot of species here. I'm glad I think I remember most of them so far. I'm holding off from saying some right at the moment because I know I'll encounter them further along the trail. Okay, a less nice species I've talked about way too much because it's everywhere here, and also invasive, Euphorbia maricinides, one which I'd love to pull out of the ground right now, but I don't want to get the sap in my fingers, even though I guess I could just wash them in the river. It's just a little too risky. Of course, member of the family Euphorbiaceae. I mean, what's there not to say about it? That can also be said about diabetes or cancer. It's just a really terrible plant, and I don't like it. Again, might be able to be appreciable in its natural habitat, but it's just so invasive, and not everyone here even realizes it. Though my video on how to remove it has been getting a lot of views from Facebook, so I guess that was shared there. So maybe there's an increased awareness in how terrible that plant is. I hope the river isn't too loud. Oh, this is lovely. Here we have another plant I talked about it quite a lot, but for good reason. This is Lomatium dissectum, also known as the Fernleaf Biscuitroot, because I think, of course, its leaves look quite fern-like. It is obviously not related to ferns at all because it's got flowers, which you can tell by its compound umbel shape, makes it a member of the family Apiaceae, as all Lomatiums, of course, are. This plant can get quite tall. I've seen the stalks get up to 5 feet tall, but typically you'll just see it more like up to 2 when it's in areas like this that aren't quite shaded. Less nice though, this plant, which I'm pretty sure is Cynoglossum officinale, commonly known as houndsung, which, in addition to being, again, invasive, produces very annoying, prickly, sticky seeds, which very much one of the things you could call, or would be commonly called, beggar sticks. Not a plant I like too much. I hope I can pull some out when I next come here. I think that plant might be biennial, but I really don't know for sure. I pulled a ton of them when I worked at the city. What a lovely day. We have a really nice interplay of like the sort of Great Basin dryland habitat and the more montane habitat, with all the fact that this area runs alongside a river and goes for riparian habitat. Look at this. It's a little bit early for it to be blooming, but here we have Balsamorrhiza sagittata, which I made a great video on how to tell apart from Whitetop plexicalis last year, which seems, I'm sure we'll find growing here if we keep looking. Yeah, normally I expect it to be blooming around like May actually, but I guess, you know, it's been a bit warm recently. It's another one. Here we have some unidentified species of Astragalus, and unfortunately it will remain unidentified. It's just too hard to identify them. I mean, there's a good chance it's like Persia utahensis or Malleosissimum. I'll have to look up which one's most likely to be found here. First, one's more common on the Colorado Plateau, one's more common on the Wyoming Basin, and one's more common in the Great Basin. Speaking of Whitetop plexicalis, I'm almost positive that's what's growing around here. Looks quite a lot like the Cynoglossum officinale, I feel like, when they're young, but of course they grow very differently. And the reason I think that's what we have here is you can see the sort of leaf skeleton from previous years, or many of the leaf skeletons, growing all throughout like this. Very neat. And what would a spring video be on this area if I didn't talk about Phlox longiflora, member of Polemoniaceae? I believe phloxes can be found in Europe, but the family Polemoniaceae is really a characteristic feature of the western United States, with most species being endemic to this region. It's only a family of about 300 species, but very, again, very, very characteristic of the western United States. And now we're in a more forested area, just like we're in the mountains, I suppose. Not quite like that, but you know what I mean. I keep adjusting the autofocus, or not autofocus. That's the problem, is the autofocus on this camera is extremely unreliable. So I have to rely on the manual focus. Suppose this plant is most likely some, I don't know, crap species of non-native Lonicera or honeysuckle. Most likely something like Lonicera tartarensis or tatarensis. I'm not sure which it'd be pronounced like. Just got our non-native crap rose, which, I mean, how would a video be complete without it? Can you imagine having a video where I don't have any invasive species? How terrible that would be. I'm going to talk about Mahonias a lot, but this definitely is Mahonia or Berberis aquifolium instead of a native, or relatively native Berberis. I should say that Mahonia aquifolium isn't, it's you know, in a sense, it's not quite as non-native as other species are, because it is native to the Pacific Northwest, but just not quite around here. So I still don't like it that much in this area, but it's more tolerable than many other invasive species like the houndstug or Myrtle Spurge. I have a confession to make, which is that I did preview this trail before making this video. I just walked it once, so there wouldn't be any surprises. But I was still surprised, even on a second pass, to see this plant, which is Paxosema myrsinites, commonly known as mountain liver. It's a bit strange to see it here because it normally grows much higher up in the mountains underneath conifer trees, but nevertheless, it's cool to see it here. It's a surprise, but a very pleasant one. And now you can see a great view across the valley here to the other side of the park, where most people go. And you can just maybe see the restoration area right back there, which I'll hopefully get to show you guys just before the video ends. I don't want to make it too long. Before I go, just one more shot of those box elder flowers. Thanks for watching and see you next time.